When you look at this visual, the first thing I think of is she looks extremely stressed out. Robert Elliott said, rule number 1, don't sweat the small stuff. Rule number 2, it's all small stuff. Truth is, everyone has their own stress in life, whether it be work or maybe even your home life. It's how you handle it that matters. While I was doing research for this speech, I learned a lot of ways to inform you on stress and its effects. I'm not only going to talk about stress and how it affects you, but also ways to manage it. First, I'm going to talk about the 3 different types of stress: acute, episodic, and chronic. Sarah May Sincero stated in her article, 3 different types of stress, that aiming for effective stress management initially includes the proper recognition of stress, the manifestation, and its effects in one's well-being. Let's start with acute stress. It is the most widely experienced. It is very short-lived. This type of stress would be from a fight with your spouse or maybe getting stuck in a traffic jam. Signs of acute stress would be anger, anxiety, or irritability. Next up, episodic stress. It is basically acute stress that is suffered too frequently. This stress is common in people that have aggressive, tense, or hostile personalities. The signs are ceaseless worrying, depression, similar symptoms to acute stress. Finally, we have a chronic stress. This is very dangerous and extremely unhealthy. This much stress can lead to a heart attack or maybe even a stroke. It is brought upon by long-term exposure to stress, things like an unhappy marriage or an unwanted career. Signs are dry mouth, pounding heart, or tightening of muscles. Now that I've talked about the 3 different types of stress, let's talk about the most common stressors. Jane Wagner quotes, "Reality is the leading cause of stress for those in touch with it." First, we'll start with money as our stressor. According to the American Psychological Association, money is the top cause of stress in the U.S. In a 2015 survey, the APA reported that 72% of Americans stressed about money at least some of the time during the previous month. Signs of financial stress include frequently being anxious about money, arguing with loved ones about money, or feeling guilty about spending money on non-essential items. Next is work. We all know work can be stressful. According to the CDC, Americans now spend 8% more time at work compared to 20 years ago. At least 40% report their jobs are stressful. Some signs of work stress are headache, fatigue, depression, and mood swings. The last stressor I'm going to talk about is personal relationships. If you allow personal relationships to be toxic, they're going to affect your mental health, which ultimately will cause you stress. Signs of personal relationship issues are depression, sleep loss, and anxiety. Now that we've talked about the most common stressors, let's talk about ways to manage your stress. There are many ways to manage your stress. You just have to find out what works for you. First up, identifying the sources of your stress. You have to get to the source of the problem and look closely at your habits. If you're missing deadlines, maybe you have a procrastination issue. It can be easy to overlook the actual problem. Next is changing your attitude or adapting to the stressor. Try and view a stressful situation from a more positive perspective. Also looking at the big picture, asking yourself, will it matter in a month, a year? If not, let it go. Focus your time elsewhere. Adjusting your attitude also affects your well-being. If you see the good things about yourself, you'll start to feel good. Finally, making time for fun and relaxation. Taking time for yourself is very important. Something as simple as going for a walk or talking to a friend, taking a bath, reading a good book, things like that definitely help reduce stress. Things that temporarily take away the stress but don't work in the long run would be things like sleeping too much, procrastination, drugs, alcohol. Today we discussed stressors and ways to manage them. Like I said before, everyone has their own stress in life. You have to find your ways to manage it. After listening to my speech today, I hope you learned a tip or trick that helped you with the stress in your life.